welcome, welcome. Happy Hunger Games. And may the odds be ever in your favor.
U.S. farmers were looking forward to seeing a resumption of buying from China for key agricultural products after that Phase 1 deal was achieved between the U.S. and China. But it's now feared coronavirus could significantly delay that plan.
Australians wanting to support victims of the bushfire crisis are being called on to spend their money on buying food.
This as prices of produce, including vegetables, meat and dairy, are expected to rise. Joining us now with more is Agriculture Minister Bridget McKenzie in Canberra. Minister, good morning to you.
Good morning, Carl and Ali.
So surely Australians have done enough in terms of what they're doing to support all of the victims and also industries that are going through tough times. It's on the supermarkets now, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. Our farmers have been on the front line of this bushfires. We've had 19,000 of them are in these bushfire-affected areas. They've also been fighting them, keeping their towns and properties safe, and now they've returned.
If you're doing a Whole Foods run anytime soon, you might not find everything you were looking to buy. Business Insider reports many of the store's locations throughout the country have been experiencing food shortages, with customers finding bare or sometimes empty shelves. Shortages have been reported when it comes to produce, dairy, and packaged foods like rice and lentils. The Amazon-owned company commented that its supplier of private label beans, grains, lentils, and rice unexpectedly closed, and that they had also recently faced some weather-related issues that temporarily impacted the availability of lettuce from California. According to the publication, the company said they are working to find a new supplier, but this process could take weeks or months.
Hi everyone, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a look at the supermarkets in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong people are panicking because of the big scare of the virus coming from mainland China, so these shelves are really emptying out, and it's quite interesting walking through this supermarket. Everything is out. You can see all the vegetables, everything. People are just stocking up. People are scared. Today I noticed in the news that people were fighting for masks, and that's kind of interesting to see, because, you know, just for a simple box of masks, they're charging almost 200 Hong Kong dollars. So it's going to be quite the problem in Hong Kong soon, but it's going to get worse, I think, before it gets better.
Locust swarm ravaging Africa is now moving into South Sudan, that nation already suffering widespread hunger. More than 5.5 million people, nearly half of the population there, already lack adequate food due to civil war, droughts and flooding. In Kenya, the government is mobilizing young people to fight the plague, training hundreds of cadets in how to identify and eradicate the locusts with pesticides.
Ce la faremo ad arrivare in tempo alla festa? Now, before we begin, we have a very special film brought to you all the way from the capital.
War. Terrible war. Widows, orphans, a motherless child.
Jordan is home to nearly 3 million refugees, which makes up roughly 30% of the country's population. The refugees here come from various countries, including Iraq, Palestine, Libya, Iran, and more than 650,000 of them are Syrian refugees that fled their country's civil war.
People are hungry. You have destabilization. We know that. And we've got solutions. What we need is more money. And number two, we need for these man-made conflicts to end. If we can end the wars, we can, in my opinion, end global hunger by 2030. But without that, we'll never achieve our goals and objectives.
Every hour that we delay resolving this and going back to normal means that increased costs to the Canadian economy, increased problems for ordinary citizens across the country.
First, we get the trade war going on for about 18 months. We get that resolved in December, and then January, February, we see the outbreak of coronavirus coming in.
There was a looming crisis for American consumers, a shortage of Chinese-made products on store shelves.
That means stocking up on essential supplies like food and medicine. Health officials say by having these things, you can avoid the crowds if the coronavirus hits your community. It can also be good if you have to self-quarantine. Health officials also suggest having bleach or alcohol-based cleaners if someone in your household contracts the virus.
And it's really taken a toll on food demand. I've seen reports that in areas of China, Japan, and now South Korea, 10 to 30% of the restaurants have closed. Many of these small restaurants are running out of money. And basically, when we're selling farm products, we're selling food. And if your consumers are not buying that, that's going to ultimately take it away. So far, Chinese have indicated they're going to be buying a lot more soybeans, but the indications have not come through in the marketplace. They've been buying a lot of soybeans, but because of the currency differential, they've been buying a lot of those soybeans out of Brazil.
It's all going to slowly start to leave the shelves, not to be replenished.
And here's another ugly impact.
Because of the shortages, prices will start to creep up.
Iwinski says the outbreak illustrates why American companies should not become dependent on China.
I think this will be a wake-up call for these businesses. All their eggs in one basket really is dangerous.
Now, nobody can predict for sure when and how much the impact is going to be on stores like Walmart. But if there's something you really want from China, maybe the best advice is to get it now.
The Trump administration is making some big changes to the food stamp program.
Well, food stamps have long helped Americans when they've struggled. Today, 36 million Americans depend on them, and nearly 1/3 or 11 million are children. But this week, the Trump administration moved to cut some of them off.
The Trump administration wants to tighten rules for people in the U.S. receiving food aid. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, helps feed 1 in 8 Americans.
The Trump administration is cutting off Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, or food stamps, for about 700,000 Americans.
For that, I want to talk more about the race for a coronavirus vaccine and which companies are leading the pack.
Researchers at the U.S. vaccine company Novavax say they have made a protein that stops the virus from binding to human cells.
One of the most aggressive efforts to find a vaccine for the coronavirus.
The deadly coronavirus, COVID-19, has shuttered storefronts, brought some supply chains to a halt, and sent global financial markets plummeting.
This will take 8 to 9 months, I think, to roll its way through the markets and for the markets to re-rate.
Again, we don't know. We have no medical insight on what the progression of the coronavirus is. We just know, A, that the market has started to come off in a reasonably violent fashion.
Wow, the U.S. military revealing its brand new crowd control instrument.
A group of scientists, doctors, environmental organizers, and concerned citizens got together and they called for the urgent stop to the deployment of 5G. They said that it's been proven harmful to human bodies, that this is an experiment on humanity, and that this should be called a crime under international law.
And this food truck is about over 10 tons, but they are also trying to store the rest of the Chinese cabbage. Because right now we don't know how long the lockdown will last.
It's not been made clear to the public that 5G won't just be another number and letter on your cell phone. It requires an entirely new infrastructure of thousands of small cellular antennas to be erected throughout cities where it's going to be installed.
What would 5G infrastructure look like? Small cell antennas could be placed as close as every third hydro pole. Scientists from 42 countries are now warning their governments about the emerging health problems associated with wireless radiation, and Canadian doctors and scientists have added their voices.
The most prevalent symptoms include headache, fatigue, decreased ability to concentrate, tinnitus, irritability, and insomnia. Impacts on the heart and the nervous system are also of great concern.
What do all those deaths mean? They mean that our lives were never ours, because we didn't have any choice.